Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike, the intern, Ned Reynolds, halfway point of the week. We finally got an official college football ranking out, and interestingly enough, Arizona State kind of squeaked in as of right now in that top 12.
Well, they are 15th in the ranking. 15th. It's the top 12 teams, but Arizona State gets a berth if they beat Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. That's being played at Jerry Jones World down in Dallas, AT&T Stadium, and that'll be on Saturday. The winner of that one, Iowa State, could very well get into the top 12, maybe 13th, depending on what they do. But Arizona State, if they win that one, would supplant probably Miami, which is number 12 at the moment. This is really kind of convoluted because those rankings really haven't been finally established yet. They will be next week. A week from next Tuesday night, that'll be the final ranking, and those 12 teams will play for the championship. But as of now, it pretty much went the way everybody thought it would. You have Oregon number 1, and they'll play Penn State. Notre Dame is number 4. Notre Dame is safe, and that they are in there. Do they belong in there? It all depends on your perspective. Ohio State number 6. Indiana, Boise State, they are on Southern Methodist, which plays here in Springfield next year. They're all there. Alabama is number 11. Now, is Alabama a safe number 11? Well, it depends. They could get knocked out of that. It is possible. If Clemson is playing Southern Methodist for the ACC title, and if Clemson happens to win that one, there would be some credibility with getting them into one of those positions there. But it all breaks down as to how these conference championships end up on Saturday. Now, that's not all, because many of them are in there. As of now, there are 12 teams that'll play, and Mizzou ended up in 19th. So it's a pretty good little championship series to start out with.
The thing that's blowing my mind is that there's only one team undefeated in the entire...
That's Oregon.
Yeah. And that's kind of surprising. Usually there's more than one, but interesting way it shook down this year. Not a lot of definite wins and a lot more upsets than you'd like to see. When's the first round games going to be played?
They will be December the 20th and 21st. Army and Navy play next weekend, and that's the final game. And then the following weekend is when the teams playing on home fields, that's when they'll play. And there are 4 games involved in that. As of today, it would be Arizona State playing at Penn State. That's assuming Arizona State beats Iowa State. That's assuming that. Arizona State would play at Penn State. The others, Alabama would go to Notre Dame to play. Ooh, boy, that's cold weather competition. Alabama very rarely plays above the Mason-Dixon line, but they'll have to this time. Indiana, in the championship series, should they be? They played a watered-down schedule, but they did get there. Indiana would make the trip to Georgia. That's in Athens, Georgia, between the hedges. And Tennessee would play Ohio State in Columbus. That's a pretty doggone good matchup. Now, that's not official. When the winners would advance, of course, to the quarterfinals on New Year's Eve and play in the Fiesta, the Peach, the Rose, and the Sugar, all those bowl games. The following week, which would be January 9th and 10th, you'd have the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl, and they would be the semifinals, and the championship is in Atlanta, and that's January 20th. So it's a long way to go yet for the championship series, but we're narrowing it down now. It could be very interesting.
It definitely is interesting. Obviously, the NFL Power Rankings beauty contest, because if you go by record, the Chiefs are at the top of the hill, but Chiefs aren't even in the top 2 or 3 in some of these.
They're number 4.
The hell, I think I saw New York Times put them down as far as 6.
That's rubbish. That really is.
It's a beauty contest.
They have 11 wins. They're 11-1. Are they vulnerable? Of course they are. Any team is. And some of the vulnerabilities have been pointed out. Left side of the offensive line and so forth and so on. But the Chiefs are still pretty doggone good. Make no mistake about it. So are the Detroit Lions. So are the Philadelphia Eagles. These teams are right up there at the top. Philadelphia's number 3, I believe, in the rankings. But the fact of the matter remains, the Chiefs are 4 and in some cases below, and that is wrong, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree with you 110%. Cardinals really need to do something in the offseason if they want to give that team some life. Going into next season, there are rumors kind of swirling around that they might be on the market for someone big?
Well, they are thinking of dealing one of their top players, and what they would get out of him, of course, would depend on whether or not a trade could be consummated, but Nolan Arenado has been dangled in front of a lot of teams. Now, the problem with Nolan is, number one, he has a no-trade clause. That doesn't mean he can't be traded, but he has to give his approval. He has to say, yeah, I'll go to that team. And according to the reports, Arenado has given the Cardinals a list of teams that he would go to. Okay, that's part of the problem and part of the solution. The second part of the problem is that Nolan Arenado, folks, is owed $74 million over the next 3 years. $74 million. Now, what team in Major League Baseball is going to assume that? Well, the only way that can be done is if the Cardinals agree to pick up some of that salary, which they may or may not agree to do. There's where the baseball winter meetings, which begin Sunday in Dallas, come into play here, because there's a lot of talking, a lot of negotiating, and you can do that a whole lot better face-to-face than you can over a telephone or sending texts or whatever the case might be. But, yeah, the Cardinals are not shying away from dealing one of their top stars, Nolan Arenado, and that has indeed come to the fore. We're going to find out a little bit more about that tonight. Willie McGee is here in town, and he'll be offering a public forum. We're going to ask him a little bit about that, where he feels. Now, he's not an official with the Cardinals anymore. He is a, quote, advisor, end quote, whatever that means.
Consultant.
Consultant, same thing. But what's he going to consult on? We'll find out a little bit more about that, but we'll see. It's a long way to go before spring training.
I'd love to hear his thoughts on it and where they should go and what they should do. So let's switch gears to basketball. MSU, when the men and women play again.
Women play on Friday night at the Great Southern Bank Arena. They will be playing Wyoming, coming out from the Western Athletic Conference. Actually, that's the Mountain West Conference. The Wyoming team is coached by a former Kickapoo player, Heather Ezell. She is their head coach, and she'll bring her team into the Great Southern Bank Arena to play the Lady Bears. That'll be Friday night at 6. Saturday night, the Bears, Missouri State opens up its Missouri Valley Conference season. One game early in December, and then you take the rest of the month off and resume the schedule right around the New Year's holiday. And the Bears will play Indiana State on Saturday night. Indiana State had a great year, but all those players and the coach are gone. So it's a virtual new team. That's the agenda coming up for this weekend. Should be very interesting basketball.
We get any big action last night on the courts?
There was some. A lot of these conferences in the early season get together and they have what are called shootouts, and they match up some of the better teams. Well, Missouri played in it. I love this. The Southeastern Conference and the Atlantic Coast Conference have their shootout. You saw that Kentucky played Clemson last night. Missouri was playing California. Wait a minute, didn't you say this was the ACC? Folks, California is in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I know we have global warming and we have shifting of the earth and the polarization and so forth and so on, but now suddenly the Atlantic Ocean is lapping up on the shores of California. Stanford and California are ACC teams, so is Southern Methodist. Anyway, Missouri played California and beat them 98-93, a shootout in Columbia. Arkansas played Miami, 76-73. The Razorbacks win that one in Miami. Missouri Valley opened up its season with a couple of games, Murray State and Evansville, and Murray State won a real cliffhanger, 63-61 from the Evansville Aces. And indeed, Georgia Tech, Bradley played Southern Illinois, and Bradley ran Southern Illinois right out of the ballpark. And Kentucky lost to Clemson in South Carolina, 70-66. Kentucky has a very nice team, but so do the Clemson Tigers.
Ned, you have a wonderful Wednesday, and I will see you on Thursday.